Welcome.
Welcome. What time? What time you got over there?
I think it's Beer 30.
Beer30 time?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But first, I think we need to yam a little grain.
As we've been doing
As is
every single.
tradition,
Yeah,
you know?
that's right. So what do we got here this week?
So today we have some toasted oats, and we're going to be actually pounding some of this grain in between each different sample that we try, so we can cleanse the palate a little bit.
A little
And
palate cleanser. Make sure we got a little in between, some space between the different brews.
That's right. Give us a fresh palate at the beginning of every taste.
I like that. This was much better than the stuff you gave me last week.
Yeah, this
What
is
is
more
this?
of an adjunct. So some toasted oats.
Mhm.
So you definitely get the toastiness out of there, but it brings a nice kind of like cereal breadiness out in it.
I definitely taste that. Kind of very
Feels
very
like
nutty.
breakfast.
Hmm. Very much so. Almost like a granola bar or something of that
Yeah,
sort.
exactly.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorites to eat.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
And you said this was a adjunct. What is
An
that?
adjunct? So like usually you have your base malts and things like that,
Mhm.
and so the adjuncts are going to be things you add in like not as high quantities, but they're also going to alter the flavor of the flavor profile of the beer once you make it.
Got you. That's cool, man. Well, welcome back to the show, everyone. Today we're going to be doing something that many have requested so far, and we got a lineup of sours.
Sours.
So
This is
sours
exciting.
is like a phenomenon that has just recently come onto the scene. It's kind of like would you say like the leading edge of where brewing's going right now?
Yeah, it's kind of like that new realm of. There's a whole lot of experimentation to be done. Like people are learning a whole lot about things and how to use these different bacteria and wild yeast strains that you can throw in here to make the beer sour.
Okay.
Use them to their advantage and pull the coolest little flavors and just experiment. Really.
Got you. I mean, back in the day, if your beer was sour, that was probably not a good thing, right?
Yeah, and so from what I think it happened a lot because they didn't have like the facilities we have now and the techniques that we have where you're trying to what definitely wasn't as cleanly, and then you had things like back in the day a lot of the Belgian brewers would actually how they'd make their beers, they'd either do them in barrels or open fermentation. So at both of those points you're going to have a chance to get the bugs that you'd want in there that would actually turn the beer sour.
Got you.
So the Belgians actually ended up finding a way out. They figured this out, and then they started pinpointing that kind of back old school in the lambic styles. Then, so those are the early time of sours.
So how long would you say like sours has been kind of on the scene?
Popular or on the scene? It's been on the scene technically for like a lot, a long time. We're dating back to like the Belgian monks, like 16th
Yeah?
century, like.
So back then they were already drinking like the sours.
Yeah, but
Okay.
they didn't know what was happening. It was just more of a natural thing that when you made the beer, it's just what happened.
Okay.
There was no explanation behind it.
What about this recent part of it where it's just like, because like about a year ago people were coming up to me kind of requesting sours in the restaurant.
Yeah.
And then, but I didn't know if like maybe it had been like for a while then or.
I'd say within the past, since I've started noticing them, the past 2 to 3 years,
Okay.
I think is when they've started. They've definitely picked up a lot of steam now. But it's too because you can have you can start to appeal like people who like wine and things along those lines too, because you're pulling these notes down to a sharp tartness, and it's not near as. I mean, it depends on the sour. Sometimes they're real harsh on you, but like sometimes they're real subtle and sweet.
Cool. All right. Well, let's get to drinking. What
Yeah.
we got? What's our first one that we got
Well,
in the lineup?
let's start out with Dr. Robot by Monday Night here. It's Monday Night's actually a brewery based out of Atlanta. It's nice right there. They're a brewery based out of Atlanta. I think they've been
Beautiful
open. They've been open for a few years now, and they actually just opened their sour and barrel age program last year, the Monday Night Garage. So now they're starting to crank out barrel aging things, get some sours, and play around. But this is a blackberry lemon sour.
That's cool. I really like their branding. They have this like theme with the ties that are going on. They have like a catchphrase. What's their?
I think it's weekends are overrated.
I can dig that. I
And
can
so
definitely dig
I
that.
think the story behind that was that they wanted to have beers that you can have during the week. They're not going to be too high ABV, and you can also sit down and pair them with some food.
Okay.
for your dinners. So this one said it paired well with berries, salads, fish, and citrus.
Okay. Well, cheers to that. Let's
Cheers.
see what this is all about. I'm getting the berries.
Definitely. That was a nice little sourness on the first try, though.
You know, it really doesn't really taste like beer to me.
It almost doesn't.
For me, it's kind of like just super smooth. It's sweet. There's a sweetness to it. What's the alcohol content?
This one's 5%.
Okay.
I like the nose on it too. You get the lemon more so.
That is tasty. I could drink that just
Oh, that's good.
easily.
I'd have a pint of that, most
Mhm.
definitely.
Cheers, Monday night. Great
Good job,
on
guys.
this one. All right.
All right, we get a little cleanse in here now.
Okay. Hit the grain. Yam the
Ah.
grain. What we got next?
We're gonna go with the Southern Brewing Company. They're red and black. It's actually a blackberry and raspberry Berliner style sour. So the Berliner Weiss is a style, and that's usually a real low ABV. This one's only 4.5, I think, anywhere 3% and up a little bit, and it has a decent amount of wheat into the grain bill too.
I'm really digging the label here too.
It's nice. I feel like there's a whole lot of subtleness behind some Georgia
Yeah.
fan base behind that one right there.
Yeah. You think they're UGA fans?
Being from Athens, I would assume so.
Absolutely. Go Dogs! Really nice color on
That
here
was a
too.
great color. A little bit hazier, which kind of goes to style there, because you have some cloudiness and haze too in the Berliner Weiss.
All right. Ooh, a little sniffy sniff.
Ah,
Smells good.
the berries are a lot more prevalent in the nose in this.
All right. Cheers.
Cheers. I like
Just
it.
a sweet drink.
Ah. It's real. It's very well balanced with this, like the sour sweet.
I think there's a lot. I think there's a lot more going on in this in the mouth when you're drinking this one, as compared to the Mr. Robot.
Most definitely, it's more. It swells. It almost like the sweetness swells in your mouth a little bit more.
I'm getting a little bit of like kind of like that sourness, like in the back, like in the back of the jaw.
And so they actually use lactobacillus for this one to add the souring agent in there.
And what does that what does that mean?
So lactobacillus is a type of bacteria that, when introduced where there's sugar, it actually creates lactic acid as a byproduct, which is where you're getting that tart souriness in the back on the palate.
Okay, so is that different than the way that the Mr. Robot?
Potentially, I couldn't figure out what they used to do their souring agent in the Mr. Robot, but usually your three things that you can throw in there are lactobacillus, pediococcus, and Brettanomyces. And so pediococcus is also very similar to the lacto, and then the Brett is actually a wild yeast strain, and the wild yeast strain, it gets in there, and when there's oxygen present, it starts to eat on the glucose, and it actually makes acetic acid.
Okay,
And that's how you get the sourness out of that also.
got you.
And then back in the day, I believe, which was bushels and bushels of berries, they used to, that was another way to sour a beer, was you'd throw in your berries in there, and then the wild yeast would actually be living on the skin of the berry or fruit or whatever you decided to throw in there. So that would actually start to inoculate your wort.
Why isn't this considered wine? Is it just the container?
It's probably due to the fact because you do, like, your grain bill is just like a beer.
Okay.
And then you probably add your normal yeast in like normal, but then you add this extra little bit of the lactopedio or Brett, and that actually sours that out.
Okay.
To provide that tartness.
I mean, this is like a lot easier to drink than a wine. It's sweeter. It doesn't have the dryness properties like in like a cab. It doesn't have that, but I mean it's just super fragrant, and easy to go down the hatch.
They
to
are.
say the least.
They're sessionable for sure.
Is that what's sessionable?
Poundable.
Poundable. All right. Nice job.
Nice.
From Southern Brewing Company.
Beautiful
And then we
job.
have this awesome can. I've been looking at this the entire time. They did a phenomenal job with this
I
can.
love this artwork.
It looks super cool. It says an Earl Grey tea sour ale.
Yeah. So they threw tea into the brewing process at some point to throw it in there, and then they also did a quick, a limited lacto fermentation on it. So they threw the lactobacillus in there and let it do its thing. So it's supposed to have nice low notes of lavender and a nice citrus fruit that's in there too.
I feel like these sours are really like created for women, the women demographic. Would you say that's true? Easier to drink, not as kind of like.
I would say that might be like, that's definitely an appealing point now, like market wise, to market it towards that.
That
But-
smells good.
Does it?
Yeah. It smells
Whoa,
really good.
that smells great. It smells like a cup of tea.
Did we cleanse the palate
don't
with
know.
the grain? Come on.
It's slacking over here.
Okay. Cheers.
All right, cheers, man.
That's different.
That's completely different than the other two we've had.
Too. Very not as so much on the sweetness side.
No, it pulls more on
That's
that.
cool.
It almost kind of like, it doesn't dry out a ton at the end, but it
Uh-huh.
dries out just a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But that tea provides such a wild element.
I mean the other two kind of like fell under like the scope of like the sweetness and the sour. This is more of like a I want to say lemonade, but that doesn't really. Maybe with the tea.
Maybe so. I definitely like. I'm picking up that note of lavender in there, which is
Mhm.
wild.
That's right.
That's interesting, but that's the cool part about these beers. From what I've like, the little bit of sours I've actually had.
Who are these guys? These
This is three taverns, and they're out of Decatur.
Up in Atlanta?
Is Decatur in Atlanta?
I don't know.
I don't
Is
either.
Decatur in Atlanta?
We've got
Decatur.
confirmation.
Decatur's in Atlanta. 3 taverns.
But I've
Great
heard they're
job.
doing great things.
Yeah?
And then too, this I can't argue with the artwork at all.
So
That would make me want to buy a can in a heartbeat.
So are sours all about 5%?
I think it depends. You can get into some barrel aged sours and things along those lines too, so you can start to get upwards into those higher 7 to 9% range, depending on if they're like a bourbon barrel or how long they've set and they've aged in those, or like how stout the grain bill is in the beginning.
Okay, so what you think from your kind of like educated viewpoint?
Yeah.
If they do barrel age, it obviously would affect the taste.
Yes, most definitely. Because I think, for one, if it was a barrel that's been used multiple times, you may not, depending on whatever spirit you decide to use, you may not get very much of that spirit out of it, but you might get more of the wood tannins and flavor from the wood that was actually in the barrel.
Mm-hmm.
And now I actually have a good friend up in Smithville, Tennessee.
Yeah?
He has his own little project, and he's always playing around with wine barrels.
Okay.
Yeah. So maybe at some point, dude, we'll get his. He always does wild and forage sours.
So he takes he uses like how does that impact the process? Is it okay? So obviously the alcohol content goes up, right? But then you can taste the wine.
You actually do. You get like little notes of it, but it's more like of that. It's deep from the wood though, because that's the cool part about the barrels is you have them, and you usually when you put them in there, you let them sit for at least a few months, and you have that. Let them sit about room temp, so you have that expansion contraction. So it's slowly starting to absorb some of that liquid and squeeze it back in, and then absorb some more and then squeeze it back in. So you're actually pushing all that. What are they called? Devil's cut. Like getting all that stuff like out of there.
Devil's cut.
I think they do that for whiskey, don't they?
Gotcha.
Devil's cut.
Got you. Okay, like originally, like, when I started off kind of like this whole journey, tasting my first sour on episode 1. For the viewers that have been with us for a long time, I wasn't a fan. But honestly, this session right here really turned it around. I think there's a lot of kind of interesting taste, and I think what I do like about it is there's not a lot of it's easy to get into. I mean,
Yeah.
like honestly, like any of these beers, I could have at my house and crack it open with my food or whatever.
Exactly.
It's a good pairing. I think what's exciting to see is what comes out of this in regards to kind of like at restaurants when they're like having this product line and offering it to their guests.
And then too, like pairing that with like their food and things along those lines too. That'd be awesome.
That's right. All right, rating. We always do the rating at the end.
Ooh.
What do you think? I don't know, man.
This is a tough one this time. I think I gotta go. I might go 1, 2, 3.
1, 2, 3.
So I got Lord Grey,
Uh-huh.
Black and Red, and then Dr. Robot. But these two are like, I don't know. That's a hard one. I'm sticking with it though.
This is going to be weird just because these two are so similar, but I'm going to go with this as number 1, and then number
Nice.
2, and then number 3. This one's a nice tasting one. It's just it doesn't have as much going on.
I agree. Yeah.
It's just kind of like, oh, you have your taste, you have your sour, and then it's done.
Yeah.
But this one, there's so much flavor packed into this one, and then this one's just super unique.
Yeah.
I
I agree.
But yeah, I mean that's kind of like what we got going on. Anything else for the fans while we got them? I don't know.
Thank you guys for watching.
Thank you so much.
And
Thank you for all your support.
Yeah, you guys have been phenomenal. We're just gonna finish these beers now,
Yeah,
and cheers to finishing beers.
that's right. Cheers. All right, so that's the show. Thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. We appreciate your time. I guess what are your favorite sours? Leave it in the comments. Kind of tell us where you think that the direction of the show should go next. What are the new beers that we should do next? All right. Thank you guys. Enjoy the rest of your night. Thank you so much. Beer30. Ah!